So I've had a very difficult breastfeeding week. Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Zoe and I make lifestyle and motherhood videos. Make sure you hit the subscribe button as well as the notification bell to be notified anytime I make a video. So a few weeks ago, I had a few issues popping up in my breastfeeding journey. I have a 5.5-month-old and he's exclusively breastfed. Of course, he's an older baby, so usually hear issues with breastfeeding when it comes to newborns, especially when they're first starting out, you know, with their latch, and there's engorgement and nipple pain and all sorts of issues. Yes, I dealt with all that when he was a newborn, and you would think that now everything's going really well, but we have stumbled across a whole nother range of issues when it comes to breastfeeding. So the first issue that popped up was Nate not feeding as frequently. So now, with Nate being around 5 months old, he's so distracted with toys and he just wants to play and have lots of fun. So he doesn't want to feed as often as he used to. He used to be a bit of a snacker, I think, and he was feeding quite frequently. Now he's sort of waiting for the milk to fill up and he's waiting till he's nice and hungry and then he has a feed, which is fine, but my body just wasn't used to that. So I'd fill up and I'd get really engorged and it would be quite uncomfortable. I didn't want to pump because I didn't want my body to think that, you know, I needed to create more milk than what it already had. And that's the issue with if you add pumping onto breastfeeding, is that your body will then produce more. So that was the first difficult thing. And it's just something that I wasn't used to. I didn't really know when he was hungry or not. We don't follow a feeding schedule or anything like that because he's breastfed. It's kind of hard to stick to a feeding schedule because you just don't know how much their intake is compared to if you were bottle feeding. You can see how many mils they're taking in. So I didn't want to stick to a schedule. I just feed him when he showed cues that he was hungry. But I noticed that he just wasn't showing them as frequently as he used to, and I even offered feeds and he would just turn his head away and he just was not interested. So it was frustrating because I didn't know when he was hungry and I never knew, you know, what activity should we do because I don't want to have to stop and feed him if he gets upset or hungry. If we're about to go out somewhere, it was hard to know if he wanted to eat or not, or if when we were out he was going to eat halfway through. Especially when we went out as well, he didn't really eat at all in public. He was just too distracted, I think. Anywhere new, if we went out shopping, if we went to church, if we were at a friend's house, he just would not eat. So I would get very engorged and very full, and you could tell that he was getting like a bit cranky, but he just didn't want to eat for some reason. So I know that babies can go through nursing strikes, and I think that that's what he was doing. It's a bit better now. He is feeding more frequently again. But yeah, that was a hard moment to come about, but we got through it. So the next breastfeeding issue that popped up the last few weeks was Nate was trying to bring on more milk in my body. And he, as I said, he wasn't feeding as frequently, but I think the amount that he was taking in, he was definitely draining me more. So that probably made my body just create more milk. And with that will often make the mother hungry because she's got to, you know, she's going to have more calories to produce more milk, and she's going to be more hungry and more thirsty because the milk's going to come from somewhere. So I was very hungry, I was very thirsty out of nowhere. It just sort of popped up. I think he might have been going through a growth spurt maybe. I still am a little bit hungry, not as much as I was a few weeks ago. And you're probably thinking, why is that such a bad thing? You can just eat a ton. That sounds like so much fun. And it does sound like fun, but the reality of it is it's just not very fun. I'm a huge foodie and I love to eat. But during that time, I didn't care what I ate. I just wanted something to satisfy me, something to satisfy my hunger. So I was just constantly eating. It felt like anything I ate, nothing was good enough. I felt like I was just constantly hungry, and it was kind of a scary feeling because you kind of feel like you could faint or like you're losing weight and, you know, you're not eating enough to sort of even for you to even feel good, to have energy during the day. That's how I felt most days. So I felt like I really lacked nutrients. It wasn't a very good feeling. And then I was so thirsty that my fingertips actually went wrinkly. So they looked like I had, you know, been in the bath for an hour and they had wrinkled up. I was drinking so much water. I was trying to stay as hydrated as I possibly could. But it was like the hydration wasn't going to my body. It was just going to his milk. So that wasn't very fun either. So I do take a multivitamin for breastfeeding, and that was working pretty well up until that point that I was starting to get really hungry. So I decided to add an extra supplement. So I've been also taking an iron complex, which is iron, the vitamin Bs, and vitamin C, I believe, and all that helps you to absorb the iron. And of course, if you want to take something extra like that, I do recommend you speak to your doctor and make sure you do need that. So I started taking that as well as my normal multivitamin, and that did make me feel a lot better. So I think I was low on iron as well. It's like he was just draining it from my body. So that did help, but I've also still been eating lots of food and drinking lots of water. So when you pair baby not eating as frequently with more milk being produced, you're going to get something like a blocked milk duct. So I've had blocked milk ducts before. They're not very fun, but they're not the worst thing. You deal with it. You sort of have to massage the duct so that it softens, and then milk can come through, and it usually lasts a day or two. It's just a bit uncomfortable. But this time it was a bit different. So it took me a while to actually notice that I had something like this. So one day I woke up and I just felt really run down. I felt kind of like I was starting to get sick. So all my muscles were achy. I just felt really tired, even though I was getting plenty of sleep, because Nate was actually not waking up as much because he wasn't eating as much overnight. So he wasn't waking up as much as he had used to. So I was getting more sleep. But I was just feeling so tired, so run down. I just didn't want to do anything. And I just kept thinking, you know, it's probably just because he's bringing more milk in me and I just need to eat more. I'm just obviously lacking nutrients. And so this went on, I think, for 2 days, maybe 3 days. And I couldn't figure out what was going on. I just thought maybe I was getting some sort of illness. Maybe I was getting a bug or something. Maybe I was just too busy and I was feeling stressed. I don't know. I couldn't really put my finger on what the issue was. So I just tried to rest, tried to eat more, tried to drink more water, and just try to look after myself. And then one day I was playing with Nate on the bed and he sort of rolled towards me and rolled over like on my chest, and I felt the blocked milk duct. So it was quite sore and it felt like I was bruised. Basically, it was very achy. And I knew straight away that I had a blocked milk duct. And then I put 2 and 2 together and realized, well, that plus the fact that I was feeling really run down, I'd heard the symptoms of mastitis, and I was thinking that that's probably what I had. So I did look up the symptoms of mastitis and found that, yes, it looks like that's what I have, which was kind of scary because I've never had it before. As I said, I have had blocked milk ducts. So I knew what to do with that, because I was able to, in the past, get rid of the milk ducts, like the blockage, by myself. So I did what I had done previously, and what that was is when I have a shower, I would sort of massage the duct and try to clear that blockage. Try to get the milk flowing, trying to make sure Nate is feeding a lot more on that side and just draining it more frequently, which was really hard during that time because, as I said, Nate wasn't eating as frequently as he had been. And so I was trying to encourage more feeds, but he just was refusing them. It went from before he would eat every 1.5 to 3 hours maybe max, and that's often if he had a long nap, because he does eat quite frequently. And then it went to him eating every maybe 4 to 5 hours. Like, it was just a huge change for my body. So I was trying to get him to eat more. I was trying to massage the area. I'd also used cabbage leaves. Apparently you can put them in the fridge, get them nice and cold, and then you can pop them in your bra. I haven't looked into any studies on this, or you know, how it works or anything like that, but I had tried it and it did help me feel better. So that's something you could try if you had mastitis or a blocked milk duct. It's supposed to just help like the swelling and stuff. So I did notice that it did feel a lot better after I had used some cabbage. Another thing I tried was lavender oil mixed in with a bit of coconut oil, and then I would use that to massage over the milk duct, and the lavender oil is meant to like calm the pain. So I tried a few home remedies and just tried to rest, and I thought I'll see how I go for the rest of the day, and I'll go to bed early and see how I feel the next day. And so that was on Saturday, and then I woke up the next morning on Sunday and I just felt awful. I felt like a truck had hit me, and I knew that the infection was, you know, in my body. I could feel like I had an infection. And so I knew we weren't going to church that morning. I knew I wasn't really going to be doing anything because I just felt so awful. So I decided to call the hospital, and I got onto the maternity section, and I spoke to a midwife and asked what she thought I should do, because I didn't know. I've never had mastitis before. I didn't know how serious it could get. I just thought I'd quickly ask. Obviously it was a Sunday, so my GP, their office was closed. So the midwife, she sounded pretty serious and pretty worried on the phone when I told her how long I'd been feeling awful. She told me basically just get straight to the emergency department. Don't wait any longer because it can get really bad really fast. So that was very scary to hear. So luckily my husband was home because it was a Sunday. So we jumped in the car, took Nate, and we had to sit and wait in the emergency department room. Which if anyone's been in an emergency department, you know that's usually a very long wait. And it was actually Nate was due for a feed, but he wasn't feeding. He was also due for a sleep, so he was pretty cranky. And I'm sitting there like engorged with a blocked milk duct. I was feeling so uncomfortable, and I was feeling really tired and run down and just awful overall. So it was a really terrible morning for us. My husband was trying to entertain Nate, and I'm sitting there trying to stay awake because I felt like I could faint at any moment. Really, I just felt awful. We finally got called in, and the doctor checked me. It wasn't too bad, so I didn't have an abscess or anything like that. That's when it can get really serious. But he did say, yeah, it looks like it's mastitis. He gave me a script for antibiotics, but he recommended that I didn't take it straight away just to see how I go. And if I'm still feeling awful in a day or two, definitely go and get the antibiotics and take the entire dose, just because it can turn into something worse. So yeah, he did recommend that, and just so that, because I'm breastfeeding, the antibiotics would affect Nate as well, because it would go through my milk and it could give him diarrhea. So he was sort of like, you know, don't take them unless you absolutely need to, but if you do, definitely take them. So we went home and I just tried to rest as much as I could, which as a mom is really hard to do. You don't really get sick days as a mom, unfortunately. So I would, anytime Nate was asleep, I would just rest. I would lay down and just read or watch something. And my husband helped me a lot. I think the only thing we got done that day was make dinner. I don't think we did any cleaning at all. Like, the house was a pigsty, and weekends are my time to sort of catch up on all that stuff because I'm a working mum, so I don't really have time during the week to keep, you know, keep on top of my chores. So we didn't get a lot done that day. We just looked after Nate. We had made dinner quickly, and that was it. And I was feeling really awful, so I went to bed early with Nate at around 7, I think. And so I had a huge sleep, and then I woke up the next day and I just felt amazing. It was like all that bad feeling had just disappeared. So I was feeling pretty wonderful, and I felt the milk duct, and it didn't feel blocked anymore, but it did still feel a little bit lumpy. So I did continue to massage it out, especially when Nate was feeding. I tried to massage over it, and I think that definitely helped. And I just wanted to make sure it was definitely clear, so that it didn't come back or anything. So that was a new experience for me. I've never had mastitis before. So yeah, it had all healed. I got better. I felt a ton better. and Nate was feeding more frequently. I was still a bit hungry, like I still felt like I needed to eat more than usual, but that had also gotten better. I didn't need to eat and drink as much as I had been, a week or so ago. So this week I'm feeling a lot better. I feel like I have energy again. I'm not engorged and, in pain. Nate is feeding frequently again. I think he was just trying to work on his rolling skills, and he's been like spinning around and trying to crawl and all that sort of stuff. So he's been very busy. So yeah, there are a few things that just sort of hit me all at once, all these different issues. And during that time, I definitely thought, maybe it's just easier if I wean him and just go to bottle feeding and I never have to deal with this sort of stuff again. But I'm glad I pushed through, because I definitely love breastfeeding. It's a really nice experience. And I just wanted to share my story, just in case anyone who's watching this goes through a similar experience or doesn't realize that you can sort of have these breastfeeding issues later down the track with an older baby. You don't just have them in that newborn stage. You can get them really at any time, but it does get better. So if you do want to continue breastfeeding, you can get through it. Definitely get some help during that time if feeling run down and you need help. I definitely turned to family, and my husband was a huge help during that time as well. So I hope you like listening to my journey and my little story there, some of my issues that I've dealt with when breastfeeding. And I hope that encourages you to stick it through if you want to continue breastfeeding and you have come across these issues as well. Also, any way you choose to feed your baby, it's a beautiful thing, feeding your baby, no matter what you do, whether it's breastfeeding, bottle feeding, pumping, supplementing, or a mixed feed. Whatever you do, you're doing a great job. You're feeding your baby, and I'm sure they're happy and healthy, and they're going to love you no matter what. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Please hit subscribe to watch more videos like this one.